Well, today I'm happy to say that I have some of my tomato suckers that are ready to plant. Take a look at these guys right here. They have some really nice healthy roots on them, and I'll be sticking them into these pots right here, keeping them well watered to see if they'll take off. Now I know what you might be saying, it's fall. Why are you doing this? Well, I know we've all heard the term practice makes perfect, and earlier in the spring it took a lot to get a healthy pepper plant and tomato plants to bear fruit because of the learning curve. I didn't realize that the temperature of the soil needed to be around 70 degrees, and so all my early starts failed. And so by the time I really did get tomatoes and peppers on the vine, it was midsummer. And I want to be able to start producing those type of produce faster. And so one of the things that I have learned from watching a lot of YouTube is how to propagate tomatoes, maybe some of your favorite tomato plants, so that you can have a head start in the springtime. And so that's what I'm doing. I don't know if these little guys will make it all the way to spring of 2021, but if they do, they will definitely be ready to go and start producing lots of tomatoes in our hoop house. And if they don't, I will take it as a lesson, figure out what I need to do differently, and keep at it until I have a mature tomato or mature tomato plants ready to produce come May, let's say May of next year. So let's get busy transplanting these guys right here. I've got 2 nursery buckets that we bought for the hoop house to go in the hoop house. These are 3-gallon buckets. I don't have anything really smaller, and if I did, I'd have to transplant them up to a bigger pot eventually to this size, and maybe even these guys will be transplanted to a 5-gallon bucket. We'll see how it all goes. What I have already is soil that we got from our other containers that of plants that we had in the nursery that were past their prime. So we took all of the buckets of dirt and dumped it into a big cart that we have. I might throw in, I'm going to throw in some more fertilizer, since what was in the old containers might have already been used up. So I will do that and mix that in pretty good. But this dirt right here already has peat moss, already has compost, it already has some of the vermiculite, but I might add a little bit more of that as well, just to help it hold in the moisture. All right, let's get started. Scooping into one bucket, putting into another bucket. Let's see how this goes. So already very good soil here. Most of this was protected in the hoop house after we moved our tomatoes off the deck into the hoop house. We redid all of their containers to a healthier mix. Added some compost. Of course, now all that is mixed in through here too. Before it gets too full, I'm going to add a couple of handfuls of vermiculite, which is supposed to help with retaining the moisture levels and the nutrient levels. And I'm doing this probably slower just so I can take a look at what's inside the soil, see if I still approve. And it's looking pretty light and fluffy. Looking really good. Now I'm just going to add 2 handfuls of some fertilizer. That's recommended for raised beds. So a container, I guess, could fit that category of a raised bed. got a total nitrogen. I think this is made out of chicken manure. Total nitrogen is 5%, phosphate is 4%. So we'll see how this works. So far I've liked the plants that we have already growing in the hoop house with the same type of fertilizer, and they are doing awesome. Of course, we still feed them once a week, a liquid fertilizer. Now with tomatoes, as you probably all know, you can really just bury them quite deep, and that they'll grow roots up and down their entire stem, which is so nice. Sometimes when you're transplanting other plants, they're a lot more picky, very picky. So this guy right here, let's start with him. He came from one of our tomatoes in the front bed that was a really good producer. And so we're gonna give him another chance at a second season here. I am gonna put him way down into the dirt. I might find out later on that I'll have to cut some of these leaves that are about to touch the ground here, or touch the soil here. I planted them as far down as I could before reaching that first stem, not branch, I guess, where it starts to branch off. So most definitely we'll probably have to find some scissors and snip that off. Give it a good start. So this is what we have so far, looking good. And trying to decide if this will go straight into the hoop house. It has been in the house under some lights, so I don't know if it needs to, if I have to worry about hardening off, but we'll see how it does. And I'll definitely be sure to water this really well for several days. Anytime it looks faint, I'm going to give it some more water and see that and hopefully it will keep flourishing. On to the second one. Now that this is a little bit lighter, I'll just pick this whole thing up here, dump it in. I'm really enjoying the potting shed that Dick and I made this summer. It's really coming in really useful. Here's some more of the same type of soil that came from our plants inside the hoop house that we went ahead and got rid of, probably from either a pepper plant or a tomato plant that didn't look like it had any blight issues. You have to be careful about some disease that affects your tomatoes can be passed on to brand new tomatoes. So it might be okay for other type of plants for you to use, but not for your tomatoes. So we were careful about which soil that we kept out to plant these tomatoes in. Really mix it in there really well. Punch a hole way down in there. Get those roots a place to go. So here we have our other candidate. We're going to stick him down as far as we can. And we have done this with some other tomatoes throughout the summer. And they're right now in our hoop house and looking really good. If we need to, we can bring in these smaller ones into the house to keep them alive if it starts getting too cold here. So far, we have not had our first hard frost or even a frost. looking at the temps, I still don't have a date as to when that might be. So right now, anything in the hoop house is thriving. It's doing really good. We're under the agro cloth. We're really enjoying our nice warm temperatures that we have going on right now. So here's the second tomato. Now I'm gonna go and really water them in, put them in the hoop house, and we'll check back on them. We'll check it back in on them in a couple of days or so, but I will be going there every morning and afternoon and evening just to make sure that these guys are looking healthy and perky and that they are doing really well. It's been 3 days since these tomato suckers were planted into these pots, and they're looking pretty good. I did cut back some more of their branches so they wouldn't touch the soil, but they're looking really healthy. The tomatoes beside them also started off as suckers, about the same size, and look how big they've gotten. They're doing really well. And some of them even have some tomatoes on them. So not only flowers, but tomatoes. So they're doing good. And even this one, oh wow, look. A lot of tomatoes. So we're gonna have to decide what to do. The weather is gonna turn cold on us here in the next several days, and I can't take the big tomato plants inside, but I can take the newest suckers in and protect them from the cold. It's going to get about 39 degrees at night. I'm not really sure for how long. So Dick and I are thinking about how we might be able to protect some of the larger tomatoes that will not be able to come into the house, like our newest slips that we just planted. How can we keep these from freezing when the temperatures drop below 40? And of course, when it eventually hits freezing. It hasn't done that yet. We might get down as low as 39 degrees, 36 degrees in the next few days. So one of the things that we're thinking about is moving these plants and their benches to the very center of the hoop house and make use of the beam here, hang some argon cloth over them and seeing if that might help to keep them protected and warmer. So we have several benches to choose from, not only the ones that they're on right now, but we have a couple of higher ones too that might get them under this protection, and seeing if we can do that whenever we're threatened with frost and see how long we can preserve them. And again, this is just an experiment to see if we can keep these all the way through winter and have them start producing as soon as the weather gets warmer. I've also started growing beefsteak tomatoes. We just did not get nearly enough this year, and so I'm getting a head start. I've planted seeds, and when those plants grow up and get big enough to come out here, then I hope to keep them going throughout winter by using their suckers and propagating them. And so by the time summer hits or the warm weather hits, they'll be ready to go. And so we'll have a large tomato harvest is what my goal is throughout the entire summer. So stay with us as we keep on experimenting with ways that we can bring our tomatoes through winter with us so that we'll have a vast harvest of tomatoes starting as early as possible through planting new seeds, cutting off suckers, and keeping these tomatoes safe and protected here in the hoop house. We're hoping for a wonderful, wonderful tomato harvest next year.